Get in on the action and make your bet with Sports Interaction. The F1 schedule is heating up. Will you go with the reliable and Max Verstappen, or take your chance with a potential surprise? Download the app in Ontario. Use the QR code you see at the bottom of your screen somewhere, or head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN to get started. 19 plus, please play responsibly. Welcome to Nailing the Apex, everyone. I'm Tim Hauraney. Please head on over to Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating and a follow. Same goes with Apple Podcasts as well. Write reviews. It really helps us grow the show. You can follow me on social media at Tim Hauraney. Joining me today on a very special day is a very special guest from Haas F1, his team principal, Guenther Steiner. Guenther, thank you for doing this. Really appreciate you and appreciate your time. How you doing?
Good, thank you, and thanks for having me, and thanks for calling me special, I don't know, that could be a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, I hope it's a good thing.
It's a good thing, for sure. So whereabouts are you right now? Like, you do a lot of travel. Are you on Steiner Ranch?
No, I'm in the office, I'm at Haas F1 in Kannapolis, in North Carolina. I got back after Barcelona. Obviously, we are on our way to Canada, so it's a good stop to be home for a few days, or almost a week, for a week, and then on Tuesday off to Canada.
We just finished reading your book. It's fantastic, and Steiner Ranch is something that you've mentioned quite often in your book, Surviving to Drive. Whose idea was it to, I guess, come up with the idea of a book? Because they're journal entries, and it's very fascinating, because I've never really read a book like that with journal entries. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it was one of these stories, like when you think them afterwards, it's a little bit strange how it came together. In my position, you get approached by a few people all the time, and you want to do this, you want to do that. And in the end, my job is to be a team principal, but I got approached by the ghostwriter of the book, and said, it would be nice to do a book. He got introduced to me by a guy I know very well, which is also in the racing business. You know him as well, Johnny Herbert, So, because John is a friend, I said, let's have a talk with this guy. And we spoke, and I said, I don't want to do a autobiography or biography, because everybody has done it, and it's just more of the same. And is it exciting? Maybe not. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do like this journal entry with you. He had already a plan in his head to do that one. And I was like, let me think a little bit. So obviously checked who the guy was, and said, no, he's pretty good, And then we discussed a little bit more, and then the next thing was, how much time will it take for me? Because the thing, I don't have time to sit down 4 hours a week but I said, no, I promise you, not more than half an hour each after each race. It was actually less than half an hour we spoke about, but we got on very well. He understood how I'm thinking. And then I invited him to a few races. He came to 3 races, or test and 2 races. And we spent some more time there. And everything was very organic. There was never, let's sit down a day long and you tell me stories. No, when he was at the race, I told him some stories out of my past, but not because he was fishing for them. They just came up, in talk, and then he wrote them. And that is how this book happened. And it was not a lot of work from my side. Obviously for him it was more, but hey, it cannot be good for everybody. Yeah?
One of the things yeah, absolutely. One of the things I noticed from the book is just how much travel, you have to do. You have your factory in Banbury, then you're in North Carolina at home as well. And you have your shop in Italy. And it was we got a question from Twitter from Ty Jagger, and he asks, how do you manage your health while all the traveling done throughout the season?
What I do when I eat, I look at what I eat. I'm very careful, and I never do anything to get, the only thing I get tired from is when I work hard, on a race weekend, because, it's pretty tough, but otherwise I try to rest the right time, just look after myself, and, I always walk every day. I have some walk. I'm not a big runner, but I walk every day, and just try always think about the health. Never forget about it, So it's not like, it doesn't matter. I drink a little bit more wine today. No, think about it. I need to work tomorrow. It would be nice to drink more wine, but I cannot. It's the same with eating, I look what I'm eating, and, it's just like always being conscious about your health. That is the most important. And then automatically you behave different.
I also listened to the audio book as well. So I read the book and listened to the book. It's fantastic. I mean, it feels like, because I do a lot of long bicycling rides, and like it feels like you're actually like with me telling me a story. It was fantastic. I guess, why do the audio side of it, and like how long did it take you to do the voiceover for it?
The audio side was actually which took longest, and I didn't expect it being this difficult. It's just like it is quite demanding. I mean, I didn't think, and obviously I think it was more demanding for the sound engineer than for me. To listen to me for 3 days and correct me all the time, it cannot be easy. But anyway, it took me 3 days. It was 3 stints of 3 days, 8 hours, and in the evening you're actually mentally very tired. I mean, okay. And I didn't expect it. I never did anything like this before. And part of doing this book and the audiobook is also to make the experience, to live it, to see what it takes. And it takes a lot of you to do an audiobook, And you think, it's just reading, yeah. But once you start to read a whole book out loud and the mistakes you make, and you have to go back what is written, and then you get stuck, for me not being English mother tongue, on some words of how to pronounce them, and then all of a sudden you get the block. It was a very new, strange experience.
Did you do that in a booth, or did you do it at home? Were you able to do that from your room?
In a booth.
Okay.
Yeah, with the sound engineer. Yeah, no, it was done. They wanted to do it really good. Yeah.
Another thing that really struck me, like I know team principals are extremely busy, but for yourself, I just noticed just like actually how busy you are, even during a race weekend, let alone like during a normal week with no race weekend. The entire saga with having to let Nikita go, that was mind blowing. You're dealing with sponsors, promoters, the FIA, the team, engineers, drivers, media. Like how do you do all that multitasking?
It's one of these things when you get into this job, you normally have done something similar, and you just get used to it. But I don't want to downplay it, because it is demanding. I don't want to upplay it as well, because I mean it's doable, but it is quite demanding. But I think very important is to have relationships in the industry. It makes things a lot better, because you know how people will react as well, and what to do, and what at least what you shouldn't not be doing, because that will just will take you nowhere, and just create you work. I mean, the approach of what you do, everything. But on the other side, yeah, it is demanding, but it's also enjoyable. There's 10 people in the world which can do this job. So,
yeah.
In the end, it is a privilege to have it.
What takes us to another Twitter question from Juan Solo. He asks, what challenges are different between starting an F1 team and improving as an F1 team? Is it more challenging to start from zero with almost no expectation, or to continue to improve and increase the team's goals?
I think they're both challenging. They're a little bit different, because first of all, you need to show that you can do it, and you have to do it. You need to find the right people which are going to do it with you, and it's quite challenging. But then you get this satisfaction when you get there, when you get your first race, when you build anything up, you get good, always good. Every day is a positive somehow. But once you're running, sometimes you're running against a wall for months, without having any little success. And there you have to be persistent, that is the most difficult thing then. So if I would say, I think it's very similar, but if to try to improve it and get better and just keep on going is almost more challenging, because you don't have the little satisfactions like when you are building a team up,
Yeah, and you've gone through like a few regulation changes now that since the team has been in Formula One. Obviously, you had the tiny one heading into 2021, but then we had the big one that heading into 2022. And we look at this season, we look at the Red Bulls obviously pulling away, but as we look at other teams, at least I do anyways, the cars look a little more difficult to get in the right balance, and it looks like for some teams it's easy for the car to sort of drop out of that balance as well. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely, and it happens with us. We have got some races we are just on it, and some races. I mean, like if you just look at our last race in Barcelona, qualifying was pretty good. Car drivers was happy. You go to the race, all of a sudden, after 5 laps, you're nowhere. You've got these highs and these lows, and I think we're not the only team, and I cannot speak for the other ones, but I just can say what I see out there. There is quite a few people which are always on this knife edge, are you in or are you out, and it's difficult when you try to explain that to people. It's like, it cannot be this difficult. It is.
What do you think of the new regulations? Like, I like them. I like the cost cap. I like the wind tunnel and the CFD time. And one of the things I've noticed is the turnover rate and big updates. And it seems like with this current regulation, teams can claw back performance faster.
I like the new regulations. I think without the new regulations, Formula One would be in a bad place in the moment. When you have people outspending the other ones by times 3, it's just not it's not that level playing field. Obviously, you need to respect the teams which generate more money, but basically just buying performance is not the right thing in a sport. I think the technical regulations, they are also good. The cars are, as we said before, they're always on the edge, but people is just trying to get over it by upgrading. But the upgrades, they are not bringing a lot. Look at the Ferrari upgrade last weekend. I mean, a complete different car. I don't think there was a big change. Mercedes, they both upgrades. They were pretty competitive in Barcelona in the race, but they are very careful in looking forward because they are not sure if it works everywhere. So it's very, I wouldn't say for everybody, for sure not for Red Bull. For a lot of people, it's still a mystery how this car works, and where to get the performance. And I'm saying it since the beginning of the season. From race to race, you've got new challenges, and you never know where you are at the moment, I mean, the Alpha Tauri was very good in Barcelona. They were nowhere the races before. So it's very, very weird in the moment. But in the end, I think it's good for the spectator. There's
one of the things I've noticed with the regulations, obviously, I've been following Formula One since I was like 9 years old, but like there always seems to, once the teams start getting that convergence and they start getting closer, then there's a regulation change, and then it takes a few teams to kind of close that gap again. Should the regulation kind of stay a little bit longer than, I don't know, maybe 5 years? Maybe should it go to like something like 10, where we can get faster or more convergence and make it competitive for a little bit more longer before we have another regulation change?
Have you got an easier question?
Yeah. Never.
No. It is, philosophically, you're right. Convergence creates more competition. But then there's a few things. Does it create more interest in the sport? Because you could see it also different. If somebody gets ahead, he stays ahead a long time because he has got that advantage. So are you leveling the playing field, or you're giving converging the field? The other thing is, we need to stay always current with the technologies out there. Therefore, in 26, there is a new regulation coming for the power unit. And by doing that, we need also change the chassis rules, because otherwise, with the aero rules we have got now, we could not live with 25% less energy in the car and doing the same lap time, So there are always different challenges there. And it's just also staying current. And if you look at a product which is 10 years old, people still interested to look at it? I don't think so, because people always want to have something new, even if it's nothing wrong with the old one, but you need to make it interesting for people to watch F1, and if you just do more of the same, people say, but why would I watch this? I saw the same scenario 2-3 years ago. I want something new, and it gives something to talk about. And on the other side, it keeps all of us employed. That's a good benefit as well,
I want to talk a bit about your drivers, Nico Hülkenberg in particular. Did you expect him to get off to the start that he's gotten off to? I mean, he hasn't really been in a car in like 3 years, but he looks like he was shot out of a cannon at the start of the season, especially in qualifying. His performances have been spectacular. I mean, not to say that Kevin hasn't, but Nico to me has really stood out. Like, did you expect this level of performance this quickly from him?
No, I hope for, but you can't expect. But because that was last year, it took us a bit longer to decide for him, because he was not in a full-time ride for 3 years. So it was like, can he come back? How long does it take it to come back? But then you look at other people which were away from F1 and came back and were pretty strong. So he decided to sign him. But how he came back, it surprised me a little bit, how quick he was on the ball. But then on the other side, to keep it a little bit positive is like, if he came back and this is not his best, he can get even better. But anyway, that's what I hope. But that was jokingly said, So no, I was quite surprised how quick he was in it, but also how mentally he wanted to be back. That was also, does it surprise me? Maybe not, but does it really happened? Yes, it really did happen. Mentally he wanted to be back, because that is always the biggest thing. Do you really want to come back to F1? But drivers, once you have been in there, you want to come back, and he really wanted to come back. And therefore, going back to your question, I think he performed pretty quick, or immediately, not pretty quick, immediately when he came back to F1.
So I guess you'd be the first team boss that you have worked with him. So you'd be the first team boss that Nico's had that spoke his native language. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. I don't know. At Sauber, I don't know who was in charge, because he drove for Sauber one year, and I think Peter Sauber was still in charge there. I think.
Does that make things easier, like speaking native language, or is it still like all English all the time kind of
No,
thing?
we speak German, but it doesn't, it doesn't make any difference. We could, no difference there.
All right, we got one more question for me, and then we got a couple listener questions, and we'll get you out of here. There had been a ton of speculation about the Alfa Romeo Haas thing, and you had squashed all of that last week. But is it something that you'd listen to if they were to come to you?
Absolutely. First of all, I listen to serious and professional people all the time, and sometimes you speak with 10 people and only one thing happens, but it means you speak with everybody, and it's always an honor to have the CEO of Alfa Romeo coming to see you, to introduce himself, so that is how it happened. And obviously he didn't come without reason. They are looking what they want to do in the future after the Sauber thing. So I listened to him, and it was a good talk, but I don't know what they want to do. So, obviously we listen to a lot of people.
Twitter question from John R. How has life changed since his celebrity star power grew after the success of Drive to Survive? So, we were staying at the same hotel as the Haas team was when we were in Miami for the Grand Prix just a few weeks ago. And you came out with your family, and you were trying to get to your SUV, and you'd gotten mobbed by a ton of people to get your picture taken with them. So how is your how has this changed your life? This sort of celebrity status you've reached?
My life has changed that I'm more busy, taking pictures and signing autographs. But has it changed me as a person? No, I don't want to change, and I don't feel the need. I'm getting too old to change now, So, but no, I always say we are here because of the fans. And if they want something back, we need to give back a little bit at least. We cannot get all of a sudden arrogant and say no. And obviously sometimes you have to say no, because if I have to go to a meeting, or I have to go to a press conference or an FIA press conference, and I'm fined if I come late, I get fined when I don't come late just because I say something, So I need to be careful there. And then I say no. But normally I'm quite open to fans, or very open to fans, because I respect them. We are here because of them.
Yeah. From Parth Ladd, this actually is I like this question. What is it like working? What was it like working with Colin McRae and Carlos Sainz Sr.?
Colin McRae was. We got to be friends at the time, and difficult character. But when you knew him, you know why he had so much talent. The guy, the guy didn't need to work hard. His talent was like I've never seen anybody with a talent like him. Carlos Sainz, I'm still a friend with. I actually spoke with him on Sunday. Carlos Sainz Sr.
Yep.
He called me up after the race on Sunday. We speak all the time, and he came to see me in Barcelona. It is what I learned from him. He's the ultimate professional, and he still is. When he goes to the car, the guy prepares, the guy knows everything, the guy just is relentless. And when I worked as a mechanic for him, I don't know which year it was in the 90s, you just look up to these people and say, I know why, and you can see why he was successful, because he was so professional, put so much time into it and commitment. And I think I learned from both of them. I obviously wish I would have the talent in managing things like Colin McRae had driving cars.
he was spectacular. I used to watch WRC like all the time, and him, Colin McRae, Peter Burns, like those guys all of them just incredible. One more for you, and then we'll let you go. From Spencer Van Winters asks, what's the most difficult part about being an F1 director?
What is the most difficult part? It's normally managing the team when you've got people not agreeing on things. It's because in the end somebody has to make a decision what to do, because no decision is the worst decision. And in a team, like in every team, you've got sometimes people disagreeing and trying to find a compromise, so you're not pissing off anybody.
Yeah. Guenther, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it. Thanks to the Haas team for setting all this up as well. Your time's greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No. Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Bye now.